Hello friends, welcome to the MOOCs course on Buddhist tourism. I am Dr. Rajat Sanyal, Assistant Professor in the Department of Archaeology, University of Calcutta. In this session, we are going to talk about the Vikramshila Mahavihar. After watching this video, you will be able to learn about the archaeological history of one of the most noted centers of Buddhism in Eastern India, as well as its legacy. So let's start. The celebrated site of Vikramshila Mahavihar or Vikramshila Deva Vihar is one of the most important identifications in the history of Buddhist archaeology of the Pala period in Bengal, Bihar. The earliest reference to the monastic establishment at this site is provided in a manuscript of Ashtashahasrika dated in the 15th regnal year of the Pala king Gopala III in the second half of the 10th century CE, followed by that in another manuscript of the same text dated in the 15th year of Gopala IV in the late 11th century CE, both being copied at the Vikramshila Mahavihar. The next major reference to this monastery is recorded in the bibliography of a Tibetan monk named Dharmaswamin, who came to Magad around 1234 CE. The text records that Dharmaswamin's uncle, who lived around 1153 to 1216 CE, studied at Vikramshila, but he found it in ruins. I quote from Dharmaswamin. Vikramshila was still existing in the time of the elder Dharmaswamin and the Kashmir Pandita. But when the Dharmaswamin visited the country, there were no traces of it left, the Turushka soldiery having razed it to the ground and thrown the foundation stones into the Ganga. On the basis of details provided in Dharmaswamin's account, the editor of the text suggested that the Vikramshila monastery was destroyed by the Turko-Afghan forces around 1199 or 1200 CE. However, the antiquity of this monastic site is drawn from a solitary Tibetan text called The History of Buddhism in India, composed around 1604 CE by a Tibetan monk named Kun Da Shinpo, more famous as Lama Taranatha. According to the text of Taranatha, Dharmapal, the famous Pala king, had built the Sri Vikramshila Mahavihara. It was built in the north of Magadha on the bank of the Ganga on top of a hillock. The central temple in it had a human-sized statue of Mahabodhi, that is the Buddha. Around it, there were 53 smaller temples of the Gujya Tantra and 54 common temples. Thus, he built the monastery with a total of 108 temples and the boundary walls. The chief of the center was also to look after Nalendra, that is Nalanda. Each Pandita regularly explained there a specific and special aspect of the doctrine. Though there was no separate material provision for the different centers, these in fact amounted to 108 centers. Thus, Taranatha's account expressly states that the Vikramshila monastery was built during the reign of the Pala king Dharmapala, whose date, according to the latest estimates of the Pala chronology, falls in the second half of the 8th century CE. A second important contribution of Taranatha in studying the history of Vikramshila is his chronological narrative of the institutional organization of the monastery from the time of Dharmapala to that of Ramapala, followed by the description of the situation under the Sena kings. It would be interesting to take a look at the passing references on some of the organizational aspects of Vikramshila from the 8th to the 12th century in understanding the sequence that led to what is described by Dharmaswamin later in the early 13th century. Apart from Dharmapala, the text of Taranatha relates the site to the names of 12 kings of the Pala lineage, starting from Masurakshita to Ramapala. Of these kings, the accounts of Mahapala, Chanaka, Bhayapala, Ramapala and Sena kings might be considered in some details. So I quote from this text. He, that is Mahapala, worshipped in the Odantapuri Vihara. Though allowing Vikramshila to retain its previous position, he made these, that is the Odantapuri, the center of great veneration. As the younger son of Mahapala had not yet attained 17 years, his maternal uncle Chanaka ruled for 29 years. The Bhangalas once revolted and came to wage war in Magadha. The Bali Acharya of the Vikramashila prepared Mahabali for Achala. Many boats carrying the Turushkas from Bhangala were drowned. From this period on, the designation six doorkeeper scholars was introduced. King Bhayapala conferred patras on only 70 panditas of Vikramashila during the period of this king. Dipankara Srigyana was invited to the Upadhyaya of Vikramashila. When Vikramashila was once attacked by the Turushka army, the army was struck by terrible thunder 4 times. Shortly after he, that is Ramapala, became king, the great Acharya Abhayakaragupta was invited to act as the Upadhyaya of Vikramashila and Nalendra. By this time, the older tradition of these centers had changed. 160 panditas and about 1,000 monks permanently resided in Vikramashila. Even 5,000 ordered monks assembled there for occasional offerings. During the time of these 4 senas, to protect Odantapuri and Vikramashila, the king even converted these partially into fortresses and stationed some soldiers there, while the other centers for the doctrine became practically extinct, though it is said that the number of monks both in Vikramashila remained as it was after the death of Rathika Sena. The petty Turushka rulers of Bhangala and other places united ran over the whole of Magadha and massacred many ordained monks in Odantapuri. They destroyed this and also Vikramashila. Although it is impossible to discern the geographical rationale behind Taranatha's repeated reference to the Turushka attack from Bhangala, which is obviously Vangala, his narrative gives a clear idea of the organizational expansion even till the time of Ramapala in the first half of the 11th century CE. And further, his account reasonably matches with the statements of Dharmaswamin. If one juxtaposes his suggestion that establishment was knocked down during the time of the later Sena rulers, that Vikramashila was shattered just around the end of the 12th century CE, one may surmise from the repeated reference to the Turushka army that probably Taranatha, having more current memory of the Turko-Afghan invasion coupled with the image of the Vanga Gauda Magadha struggle as recorded in the Nalanda inscription of Vipula Shrimitra as well as the Antichak inscription of Mahsa Nikesha, took the two forces as synonymous. While Taranatha makes no reference to any connection of Vikramashila with Pala ruler Devapala, son and successor of Dharmapala, there exists a claim crediting the former as the founder of the monastery. Sukumar Dutt has recovered from the colophon of a Tibetan work traditionally ascribed to Atish that it was founded by Devapala. Irrespective of the debate centering around the founder, a number of sites in southern Bihar came to be proposed from time to time as the site of the Vikramashila Mahavihara based on the Tibetan account. The first categorical statement on behalf of the Archaeological Survey of India was made by J.D. Begler as early as 1878 when he visited the place and reported that the foundation of Silao is ascribed to Vikramaditya. I was inclined at first to look upon the tradition as absurd, but General Cunningham's surmise communicated to me while at Shimla that Silao might be found to be a contraction of Vikramashila recurred to my memory, and I at once perceived that this place is ancient Vikramashila. At present, when the Vikrama portion of the name is forgotten, the tradition naturally appears quite unintelligible. Silao that Begler is talking about is a place between Nalanda and Rajgir and a famous place of tourist attraction in modern Bihar as well. Subsequently, there have been several propositions based primarily on the same account of Taranatha for identification of Vikramashila with different other sites in South Bihar. Satish Chandra Vidyabhushan proposed identification with the well-known site of Sultanganj, followed by Ananta Prasad Banerjee Shastri, who claimed for Keur. Nandalal De, owing to his familiarity with the archaeological landscape of the Patharghata area, categorically suggested for the first time that the village of Antichak at the foothills of Patharghata is the probable site of Vikramashila.